Welcome in. It is day 124 and you're speaking with the Meeples Champion. And today we're going to be jumping into a game that I first played right about 8 years ago. It was a game a friend of mine picked up and it was very different. I hadn't seen a game like this before and I really liked it. But then me and that friend unfortunately just did not have time to see each other very much after that. And so I never had a chance to play it. And it was so hard to find. It wasn't a game you just went and saw in a store. Well, I so happened to finally come across it in a store one day. And of course, once I found it, now I see it on a regular basis. But that game was called Chinatown. Now, the idea of Chinatown is so different than what I'm used to. Because what you're dealing with is you're essentially trying to capitalize within the boundaries of Chinatown and make the most successful businesses. But to do that, there's so much going on. You have your different lots. I believe there is 100 total lots that are available. So many of them come out every round. Then you've got your businesses, a whole bunch of different ones that are represented. Now, during the game, you're going to get these, but then you're going to have this option of trading. So you could say, hey, I'd like your money for my business, or I would like to have your money for my lot. Or you've already built a lot on, or a business on a lot, and you'll sell them that. And you're doing trading of that. Or you're trading, hey, I've got a couple of these lots that you need that are near your lots. I'll trade them to you for these businesses I'm looking for. There's a bunch that comes into play. The idea is that technically, of course, like any game like this, it's all about the money. So at the end of the game, all that matters is what your final amount of money is. You're trying to be the richest. But to get there, you go through so many stages. Because the idea is that when you get these different businesses, for instance, dim sum, well, that's great if you have 5 dim sums. But if they're not on the board, you don't get paid anything. But let's say that you get them out on the board. Well, that's still great. But if they're all on their own, it's like having 5 different McDonald's. You know, you're going to be making some money off of them, but they're all spread out. It's not something that you've gone all in and made something deluxe about it. But if all of a sudden all of those, instead of being in separate lots all over Chinatown, all existed in one location touching each other, it would be a mega McDonald's. And that's where you'd have an opportunity at some real growth. Because not only is it the same idea of having built up the dim sum that you're making, but it's the idea that you've capitalized in a way that's making it stand out and getting more attention. So the more lots touching each other that are of the same business, the business begins to grow. So you might say, and I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but let's say, well, at the end of whenever you get paid, your dim sum is going to pay you 100. So if you have 2 different dim sums, it's going to pay you 200. But if they're touching, it'll pay you 300. So if you have 3 of them, 100, 200, 300. But if all 3 are touching, you might be getting paid instead like 600. So every extra one that's in there gets a bigger payment for it. So it's really interesting because there is a luck factor. But all the luck factor does is allow you to have that ability for trading or preventing somebody from reaching something. If you know, hey, you've got 2 dim sum here, and you've got 2 dim sum here, and I own these 2 lots in between, and I believe it maxes at 6 touching. You could say to them like, hey, I've got a dim sum and I've got 2 lots that are right between the 2 you have existing. At the very least, I can trade you a lot and a dim sum token, and that'll combine you and make it a 5. But if I'm going to do this, I want $1,500 back and I want that spot over there. You can overcharge knowing it's worth it for you, because it's not just about the money you're making now. It's about how many rounds do you have to go before the game technically finishes. That's all profit zone for you. So it's about really extorting what you have and realizing who the people are. So it's definitely an extremely fun game. I really like that negotiation ability. But let's jump in, let's talk our 7 categories, and let's see where this game really falls for us. I like the art. The front of this box is nothing amazing, but I feel it sells the concept. And for me, it is a box that I enjoy. And the inside of the box, everything is still selling it. It's your grid, it's your different tokens that are showing off these different business types. I really enjoy the art for this. At the same time, I acknowledge that Chinatown has not been a massive success. It wasn't a failure. It definitely is a game that's been reviewed well. It came out many years ago and it's had a couple runs, but it hasn't had that giant commercial success. And that's probably because this kind of art speaks to certain people and not all. I tend to be somebody that gets grabbed by something like this. So it makes sense that for me, I would enjoy it. But I understand that this is not something that speaks to everybody. That being said, you're listening to the Meeples Champion, not to everybody. I like the art, so I'm giving it a thumbs up. So the components on this are, again, pretty basic. Now you've got your actual grid when it comes to your board. Great, top notch. You've got your cardboard pieces for all your different companies. Great, cardboard pieces are top notch. Then you've got these little plastic pieces that you place out for when you own a lot. So if you get a thing and it's like, hey, here's the card for the lot you just got, you now put your color on. Now this is a little piece of plastic that I accept is not the best thing in the world. At the same time, I do feel that they give you more. You have way more than you need. So if you do break a few or lose a few, you're okay. And I think it gets across the point of the game. It makes it easy to track. And they're not bringing the cost up through those pieces. For me, it's acceptable. It's a thumbs up. So the price on this it is not a cheap game. This game is at best, if you're extremely lucky, $50. The likelihood is you're paying more in that 60, 70 range because of the fact that it is a rarer game and you're likely going to have to buy it online. You're not going to ever see this in a Target, in a Barnes & Noble. The likelihood is you're going to be lucky to see it in 1 out of every 5 stores because it's just not, it's not been reprinted. It's not something that has a massive amount of stock out there. You're likely to find it online in most cases, and online it's going to be a higher price. So that availability in that price range, as much as I love the game, has to be a thumbs down. It's too high for me. Your difficulty level it's all up to your negotiation ability. There are so many different types of games. I love worker placement. And I fully admit to the fact that when it comes to my group of friends, I get whooped at worker placement because I love a game that I'm not necessarily bad at, but I'm not good at it either. I'm right in that middle area. I know enough, but I'm not going to dominate. I enjoy a game like this, and it's probably because I can do math really quick in my head. This is more straightforward understanding math of realizing the short-term and long-term benefits. It's really helping you with that, like the idea of economics in a way, understanding how important it is for a location, understanding how to take advantage of somebody else's vulnerability or somebody who's like really needs the money. And it's a game that I just dominate at. So for me, I don't look at this as a difficult game, but it is difficult. There are a lot of people that play this game and they don't understand why all of a sudden on like the 4th round and they're almost finished with the game and they're like, how am I losing this bad? Because they aren't seeing the benefit of when somebody's doing an early trade and giving them a big advantage, but doing something that really, really helps themselves. And that is a huge, huge plus for anybody who knows how to do that. So if you're into understanding how to do out that, multi-round prep work for making money, if you understand the concept of trading and bartering, this is a great game for you. And I think that it's one that easily can grab the attention of, I would say, experienced players and beginners. I think that kids, this is going to be a little bit tougher of a sell. And I think that experts, it's a little bit tougher of a sell. But if you're telling me I'm getting those 2 of the 4 groups and it's those 2 middle groups, that's a huge thumbs up because that's not 50%. That's more 70, 75% of the people you can play with. You're not going to meet many people that are experts, and you're not going to meet many people who are kids for the playing area. Lots of beginners, lots of experienced. Those are your big quality areas. So again, thumbs up. Replayability on this is tough. I think that this game, if you're pulling it out for like a holiday get together with family, which for me, that's where I tend to play this, yeah, you could play this back to back. I don't know if everybody's going to want to. It depends on how quick that first game truly goes, but it's possible. For me, I find that this game is a pull it off the shelf 2 or 3 times a year game. There's a little bit of replayability there, but in my size collection, it's just not one that's going to get pulled out very often. That being said, I do think if you go and you have a smaller collection and you're in a group of friends who has a smaller group in total, you know, each person has at most 20% of what I have for a collection. This is one that is going to stand out because there's only one other game I can think of that's like it. And therefore, it's going to have an opportunity to get off your shelf more often. So I'm going to give it the thumbs up because I think there is replayability here. Your keys to victory. So keys to victory are, there's a lot of ways to do that. What are you in for? Are you trying to get the money now and you're going to just build things as easily as you can and then sell things off and try to just cash in constantly? You can do that and see if you can build your money up. Or are you going to try to do investment and really see if you get, you know, I want to go all in on a 6 and try to dominate the whole way through with this? Or go in the middle and say, all right, I know I can hit a couple 2s and 3s and I'll sell these off to get some 2s and 3s here. And down the line, hopefully I can improve upon those, but that's the plan. You know, you have to really try to plan out all of that, but there's a lot of options. And there's not a guaranteed victory or loss by doing one or the other, specifically because the game's randomness. You're not sure what you're going to get or what's coming out when. And because of that, there's a lot of opportunity for a strategy to completely dominate in one game and be useless in the next. You never know with the random factor, and the random factor makes the keys to victory extremely successful in this game. It's a thumbs up. Is the game unique? If you had asked me this question about a year ago, I would have said 100%, no question, yes, it was unique. But then a friend of mine picked up Foundations of Rome. I will be reviewing that at some point down the line. He is going to let me borrow the game. It is a masterpiece. I absolutely love it. And it does what this does, only at a better level. You have your lots, and only so many lots are out. However, the lots are different. In this one, they come out and they basically get dispersed. In that one, everything's shuffled up, and you actually are bidding on them. So when it's your turn, you have an order of the available lots, and it's basically like, hey, here's the one way at the high point. So if you buy a cheap lot, everything moves to the right, and it's going to get cheaper. But if you really need that lot, and you see that, like, hey, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 touching it, and they've got 1, 2, 3 over here touching it, you better buy it, because if they grab it for you, you can't just go steal it from them. But then on top of the lots, you're not just placing a business. You actually have multiple other types of buildings you can place of 3 different categories. There's cards that have abilities. It goes to an all new level. I love Chinatown. I'm so happy I managed to get into my collection a few years ago, and it's one I'll never get rid of. And I do think that if you're looking at this and at Foundations of Rome, this is kind of like an intro for that. It's not a beginner type game at all. It's definitely, you know, a game that's meant for a little bit more of that high level beginner mixed with experienced players. But I cannot, if I'm given the choice between the two, ever pick this. I'm going to pick Foundations of Rome if it's on the table every time. I really considered buying that game when I had my, you know, month ago spree to try to add more games to the channel. And had I not had a friend who owned it, it would have been in my collection. But because I did, I held off and said I'd wait until a later time. But because of this, I have to give Unique a thumbs down. Overall, what do I think of this game? I really like this game. I think this is an absolute must play. If you have an opportunity, get it to the table. As far as buying, if you get lucky and you find it in a store and you're finding it for 50 or less, I say just buy it. If you like a good bartering game, money game, that kind of stuff, it's perfect. But if you don't find it for at least $50 or less, and it's higher than that, I say that you back up, you don't spend your money, it's a great game, but you're not going to get to your table that often. And I think it's a lot of money to spend on a game that might be more of, in my case, it's a holiday game. I know that from the moment that we hit right around November to the end of December, middle of January, is when I'm going to be able to see my family, my wife's family, and that's where this game has a chance to hit the table. But when we're not in that range, when I see family, it tends to be on bigger trips where we're out of the house. And this is not the kind of game that I'm bringing for a night at a hotel when we go to Europe or something like that. So for that reason, I really do feel it's a must-play, but it is not a must-buy. But that's just my opinion. It's up to all of you to get out there, find the game when you can, see what you think. Maybe this is way better for you than it was for me. Maybe you hate it. Whatever it is, it's fine because that's what you think of the game, and it's up to you to figure out the right games for you, for your family, for your groups of friends, and what really is going to get to your table. Well, it has been day 124, and we've been speaking about the game Chinatown. And you've been speaking to the Meeples Champion. Like, share, subscribe, and check down below in the description where I'll be adding an Amazon link so you can pick up a game of this for yourself. Until next time, I'll talk to you tomorrow.